right, hey everybody, this is Katie Acosta, and I'm here on my 90-day weight loss journey to lose 40 pounds in 90 days. And one of the things that I'm doing on my journey here is I'm taking this class with my good friend Stephanie Flanders-Martin. We've been friends for like 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
Yeah, we've known each other for 4 years. She's just an amazing person. Stephanie has her own yoga studio. It's Tree of Life Yoga Studio here in Greeley, Colorado. And so I just have a treat for you guys today, because on this weight loss journey, I mean, we all come across things in our journey where we might get stuck. We're losing the weight and then we get stuck, or we can't get started for whatever reason. And some of those things Stephanie really may be able to help with, because not only is she a yoga instructor, but she's also a nutritionist. Yes. And she does. Tell me about the stress management. I know you teach stress management, but help me understand where your background is there.
So I feel very blessed. I studied under Brian Luke Seaward. If you look him up, he's amazing. He's one of the leading authorities in the world on stress management. He actually lives in Colorado, and I came across him and had kind of stalked him for a little bit. Sorry, Brian. And love his work and took his certification. So I've taken 2 levels with him. Okay. And what I really love about Brian is his knowledge base is amazing. He was an instructor at college, and he actually wrote a whole book. It's about this thick, and that's what we had to use for our class.
Nice.
So, that's my background in stress management. And when you talk about, because Katie asked me to talk a little bit about how stress affects your weight loss.
Right. Yes.
And the big thing with stress and your weight loss is what happens in our bodies. So we have good stress and we have bad stress. There's good stress as well. Good stress is typically,
really?
right? Yeah, there is good stress.
Okay.
So you know what good stress is? Like falling in love.
Okay.
Right? That's stressful, because you're just like, I'm trying to get to know somebody, and you know, it's all those idiosyncrasies.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a little stressful, but it's a good stress.
Right.
Then there's the bad stress, which we call distress. So in distress, there's 2 different types of distress. There's acute and there's chronic. So acute stress or distress is typically only lasts about 20 to 30 minutes. So that's why we call it short term. And that would be, for example, you're driving along on the freeway and you look in the rearview mirror and the police lights are on and they're pulling you over for a ticket. And you know, all of a sudden you kind of go, oh God, I can't believe it, right? So you're kind of stressed out because what goes through your mind? My insurance rates are going to go up. I don't know how much this is going to cost, blah, 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 blah.
And I'm late.
And I'm late, right? Now, not that I would ever speed, but, right? So it's all those things. So that's a short-term stress. Another example of a short-term stress would be your kid's playing, right? Evie's playing. She falls down, gets hurt.
Right.
That's a short-term stress, because you might immediately kind of your heart races and you get really anxious and excited, like, oh my gosh, what happened? Make sure they're okay, and then your stress comes down. So usually about 20 to 30 minutes is acute stress. Chronic stress is really what really causes a lot of the problems, a lot of health problems, and that's where the weight problem can come in. Okay. So what happens in our body is we have what Brian, Dr. Seaward calls a stress cocktail happens in your body. It's the epinephrine, the norepinephrine, the cortisol. It's all these kind of chemical things in your body that when you're really stressed long term, that it starts to cause a lot of long-term health problems. That's where the weight can typically, come from gain. So, for example, long-term stress might be money problems, right? You might have a short-term money problem. It might be like, oh crap, my check didn't go in today, so I've got to figure out how to pay for the groceries right now. Or you might say, okay, I'm always short on my bills. This is becoming stressful. What am I going to do, right? So that becomes a long-term thing you need to resolve. So that's an example of like a long-term stress. Relationship problems are typically long-term stress. Typically, they don't come out of nowhere and they don't resolve very quickly. They may, right? But typically not. Yeah. Career challenges. So there's all those things. It could be illness. Illness is often a long-term stress problem with a family member, or, if somebody has cancer. It's very stressful because you have layers of things that go with that. So those are things that would be considered chronic stress. that's where that little stress cocktail in your body continues to flow. And typically, when you talk about long-term stress and weight gain, belly. Belly is where it settles, right? For stress, for weight. Now, that's not true of everybody 100%, but most of the time it's the belly. So how do you resolve it is always the question.
Right.
There's two different things that you need to consider when you're trying to work towards stress management. We have coping techniques and we have relaxation techniques. Coping is really all about coming to a peaceful resolution with whatever that challenge is. So if we go back to that money challenge and we say, okay, we're short money every month and we just can't seem to resolve this. Well, maybe the long-term solution is Katie and I need to sit down and say, okay, where do we need to cut on our budget? What can we get rid of? Like, can we get rid of satellite TV for a while? Can we, whatever we need to do to come to that zero-based budget or balance, or does one of us need to get another part-time job or something? Like, so, whatever we have to do, that stress simply starts to dissipate when we cope with it. Sometimes that's the hard part because it depends on what the issue is that you're working towards.
That's true.
So you have, with the coping techniques, you want to add in the relaxation techniques. Relaxation is to bring you back to homeostasis or back to kind of a real level playing field in your body.
Right. Okay.
So you really want to, and that's what I teach is relaxation techniques. So yoga and meditation are two forms of relaxation techniques that you can use. Yeah. And Katie's one of my best students. So so that's where like a yoga, meditation, physical fitness.
Okay.
Physical fitness can be a couple of different things. It can be a coping technique if you're working towards a goal.
Okay.
If you're really needing, because physical fitness brings that stress cocktail up in a good way, right? But it really helps working towards another thing. So it can help to dissipate as a relaxation technique as well. So when you're really working on stress management, first you need to identify what the issue is. So if we know, for example, going back to our financial one, because it's the easiest one to most of the time resolve, not always. But if we say it's a budget issue, right, and we know we're just short every month, okay, well, let's cope with this. Let's really deal with what's the bottom line. Do I need to get a financial planner and say, hey, I need help with this? Do I need to go to a banker and say, hey, we need to figure this out? And there's so many amazing resources out there.
Right.
Once you're working towards that, when you're feeling anxious about the money not coming or whatever, you work with the relaxation techniques to bring you back to homeostasis.
Got it.
Because it's when you're out of balance in homeostasis, that's when that stress cocktail just continues to overflow in your body.
Okay. Awesome. So I'd say what I hear is the biggest thing that people can do is get into some kind of meditation or yoga to help them just kind of relax, but also the physical fitness too can help. And then of course coping and dealing with
and there's like layers of amazing coping techniques that we teach. One of my favorite ones is journaling. And what I love about journaling is actually under both. It works as a coping technique and a relaxation technique because there's something cathartic about sometimes just getting stuff out of your brain and letting your brain continue to spin and putting it on paper and saying, okay, for now, I'm going to let this go. So you're not only coping with it because you're putting it on paper, you're reviewing it, you're kind of working through it, you're coming up with solutions, but you're also releasing it. So it's actually one of my favorite techniques to use with a lot of my clients because it allows you a 2-for-1 deal. But then add in meditation and yoga and doing those and then journaling at the end, just like how it's, where's your head at? What became more clear? Because as you know, with your practice, when you do yoga, it really does help you clear your head. It gives you the opportunity to kind of, I like to say my mat's my happy place. So I get on my mat and when I'm on my mat, that's my happy place. When I'm teaching, I'm working on creating that space for everybody else. But when it's my practice, this is my safe space. This is my place to just process and think through things and whatever. So, so that would be, like the journaling's amazing, budgeting, financial planners or financial assistants. There's tons of financial tools. That's a really important resource to make sure that you tap into. If it's a relationship, getting a counselor or a therapist or someone that can really help you work through that, unless you feel like if we just had an open conversation, you can resolve it. So if it's, Katie and I are friends and we have a conflict and this is just like really causing a lot of stress, if Katie and I can just sit down and have a conversation and say, this is how I feel and whatever, right? Or if, you need to have a therapist, if it's a spouse or whatever, use that as a resource. Right. That starts the coping. And then you work on the relaxation to help bring you back when you're feeling in those moments of kind of anxiousness or whatever. Got it. Because the more we can maintain that body at homeostasis, which is in the sense, right, it's bringing your body back to ground zero. That's what is best for your body.
Perfect. Well, some amazing techniques here to be able to bring that body back to ground zero, just to be able to cope, relax through the stress. And as you're doing that, always, of course, having a good balanced diet, making sure you're not eating too much sugar, all of those things can be stressors on the body too, can't they?
And actually, nutrition is one of the ones that we talk about with coping. Because what happens when you're stressed out? What do you go to? A lot of us are self-soothers, right? So what do we soothe with food? Because it's that temporary feeling of feeling good. So nutrition is one of the coping techniques that really is a coper, right? So we can get those things out or manage those, and then eventually it becomes one of your or a relaxation, but it can be a coping technique as well, right? So when you're doing more of the planning and stuff. Sorry, I think I flipped that in that conversation, but
that's okay.
Hopefully,
that's okay.
Sorry.
All right,
it's Wednesday. We're gonna go with it's Wednesday.
It's Hump Day. Anyway, awesome. So yeah, we I think we got a lot of really great information from you, Stephanie, and ways to be able to just relax, cope with things, and that nutrition is huge, because nutrition for us in this 90-day, we're really focusing on Wednesdays. We're focusing on nutrition and what are we doing, what are we putting into our bodies. So anyway, that I wanted to just bring to you guys today, this special treat, my friend Stephanie. And Stephanie, how can people around the area, so we're in northern Colorado, the Greeley area, how can people connect with you?
Yep, so you can we're at treeoflifeyoga.studio. If you go to our website, you can check out our schedule on that tab with calendar and classes. You can also email us at tolyogastudio@gmail.com. Okay. And then you can always give us a call. Our number's on the website. So
perfect. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and make it a great day.
Thank you.